It's been just over 2 weeks since authorities named Danny Heinrich as a person of interest in the 1989 abduction of Jacob Wetterling. As investigators continue to appeal for leads in the Wetterling case, federal prosecutors are preparing to prosecute Heinrich on child porn charges. The FBI found more than 100 images of child pornography in Danny Heinrich's home, including images from Painesville middle school yearbooks that were morphed onto pornographic scenes. In the aftermath of Jacob's kidnapping, Jacob's family founded the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center as a resource for law enforcement and for families to keep children safe. Allison Feigh is the program director at the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center and joins us now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, we want to get into all the work that your center does, especially with online advocacy, but I think a lot of people want to know, how are Patty and Jacob and how are Patty and Jerry Wetterling doing?
They're a strong family. You know, it's hard to compare it to, it's when people say, how are they doing? It's like, compared to what? You know,
Right.
Compared to what anyone else who's ever been through this. They're a strong family. They're maintaining hope and continuing to push the prevention message. You know, how can we make sure that this doesn't happen to any other kid?
All right. One of the things as we go over some of these events from 1989, we're coming across unsolved cases that never got publicity in the Painesville cases. As you look at it from where you sit, what are there things that wouldn't have happened today that did happen back then?
Looking at it now, hopefully, I mean, whenever we go into a school, for example, to do personal safety workshops or online safety workshops, there can be a spike in reports because kids now have the words, the vocabulary, the information about that. And my hope is that as parents are taking more ownership in personal safety discussions and online safety, kids are speaking more and they're being heard more. You know, in reading the news articles and seeing the stories about Painesville and as it unfolds, there are a lot of kids that were not listened to. And the hope is that kids now are being heard in a different way than they were back in 1989.
Now, not just by their parents, but also I think from law enforcement perspective and the sharing of information. I mean, how much progress has been made there?
That's huge. You know, when Jacob was taken, the recovery rate for finding missing children was about 60%. And the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children now reports a 97.5% recovery rate. Even just looking at Minnesota, every single child we've used the Amber Alert for since its inception has been recovered alive. So the ability to communicate, to have more tools, to have more training, all those we want to plan before bad things happen. You know, and these types of cases are so rare. Jacob's case, about 115 a year like that in the United States. But if you are the law enforcement agency that's handling something leading up to that, if we could have eradicated this before, we may not have had these this abduction later. So prevention, prevention, prevention.
Well, I know that you and the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center are in schools every single week talking to parents and kids about the threat that didn't exist when Jacob was taken, and that is the online threat. What should parents know about this online threat to their kids?
Communication is so important. You know, it's good to have the monitoring software and to be able to have, check in on apps and things like that. But it's the communication. Just like in when you're teaching your kids car safety, you don't have to know the difference between how the manual works versus, the automatic. But you have to have a conversation about when you're using the car, don't text and drive.
Yeah. What age do you need to start talking to your kids?
As soon as they're online. I mean, they can learn about their uh-oh feeling. They can learn about if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
So that's probably first grade or even kindergarten.
Yes, definitely, with the uh-oh feeling. And when we ask kids, why is it that only 5% of kids who are sexually solicited online tell somebody? Why is that number so low? The number one response we get from junior high and senior high kids is, if I tell my parents, they'll take my electronics away. So have a conversation before anything happens, saying, listen, if someone's messing with you online, if someone's trying to get you to do something online that you don't want to do, whether you know them or not, come tell me. I'm not going to take it away from you, but we'll work together to make it safe, because we want to reduce any building block that prevents kids from talking to their parents.
All right, and we have a link to your website, the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center, but also the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which has fabulous resources.
They do amazing work, yes.
All right, well, thank you so much, Allison Feigh. We certainly appreciate it for you coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right.